Hello, this is about particles. We start with a plane which serves as a ground, and we give it another color. Then we'll build a pedestal. This is our basic setting now. Now we introduce a character. Go to Windows, General Editor's Content Browser, and here under modeling you have several options, lots of options really. And one option set is the bipeds, and here I like the character obese. Probably because I'm so skinny. He arrives in the scene. If we press F, we see him in all his mightiness, and we scale him down from the dimensions of meters to the dimensions of centimeters. Press F again, so we're down here. Next step, we'll use him as an emitter. We need to go to FX, Special Effects, and then nParticles, and we'll use him as an emitter. That means we emit from the selected object. And let's use the default settings without the option box. What we have now is the particles streaming down. Why are they going down? Because they have the nucleus, which is sitting here, and the nucleus gives them gravity, and we can reduce the gravity from 9.8 to 1, for example. If we would reduce it below 0, the particles would stream upwards, so they're going slower now. In particle animation, we always deal with basically two parameters. One is the particles, the nParticle shape, and that's that box really, which grows while the particles dissipate to the ground. And the second thing is the emitter. The emitter is about how many particles are emitted, in what kind of direction, etc. So currently we have 100 per second, and if we reduce this to 2 per second, this is what we see. Extend the frame range to 500 so we can see a little bit more what's happening. Next thing we can look at is the speed. The speed is currently set to a default value of 1. If we increase the speed to 10, this is what happens. They shoot out massively. And if we reduce it to 0.1, we have very slow emissions. When we hide the character now, he's right here, press key H, we see his shadow, so to say. So he's being rebuilt all the time while the particles fall to the ground. So next thing we're going to do is we create colliders here, and then we're back to the particles. So it needs to collide with this object here, which is, I think I better pick it in the outliner, which is the pedestal. You don't find the collider object right here, but you find it under nCloth. Create passive collider. And since they're all using the same N system, the nucleus system, this doesn't matter where we pick the passive collider. So we pick it here, and what's happening now is that the particles shoot up because they're reflected from that ground. I think it's a penetration problem. Can move them a little bit further down. So that's their reflection. We'll use this as a collider as well, so nCloth again and create passive collider. So when they fall down to the ground plane, they are repelled. But I think not many fall down to the ground. Well, they do, as you can see now. So the next thing, we go to the particle object back again. This is the emitter we just talked about. It has a maximum distance and a minimum distance, very interesting values as well. But I wanted to show you something here. If we use the surface as the emitter type, instead of omnidirectional, or the volume of our object, we get different results, quite dramatically different results actually. Can you hear that hammering? It's the construction site. I hope they're done at the end of this year. We're in midsummer now. Okay, this is what we see. You see the little particles here, 1 per second. Now we can raise the emitted particles per second again to say 2000. So we have this raining particle thing. So this is, I think, the effect we could continue with. So we go to the particle shape now. This is this tab. The first section is interesting, but we can't do anything about it. It is counting the particles which are currently in the scene, 3083. But here, the lifespan, it's basically a thing which could be under the emitter as well. But it is right here, lifespan mode, live forever. No, we'll let them die at a random range of, say, lifespan 1 and a random range of 1 as well. And now let's see what's changing here. You see it's raining not very far down because the particles die with a random lifespan. Now everybody can see that this is a character. We can emit more particles. Instead of 2000, 20,000. That's maybe too much. So that's 2000 again. And going back to the end, I switch between the two all the time really when I do particle animations. We have the particle size here, and it's currently set to 0.2. If you raise this, nothing changes. Let's go back to 0.2, because our particles are infinitely small. But we can make them bigger, of course, go down to shading, oddly enough. And instead of points, we want to see spheres. And now we have them in this blobby manner here, and now we can reduce the radius to 0.01, for example, and they're tiny now, but they can be rendered in Arnold. That's a little bit too small. And of course you can give them colors depending on their age, for example. But that's all I wanted to show you. It's a particle system which has basically two parameter sets, the emitter type and the particle shape type. It all is based on the nucleus, and that's why the interactions with the rigid bodies goes via the N-cloth system, whereas the passive collider here. Of course you can tweak the colliders and their behavior in quite a fancy way, like making them repel the particles more drastically, etc. But this is enough for now, and I wish you a wonderful day.